We were discussing the Purvapaksha of Ramanuja Sampradaya. Follower asked, objected. Vedantin first told that what Shastra teaches is today Friday 30th. Friday 30, yeah. Last day of the month. So, nacha nasti shastra jnana badhakam. Nacha asti shastra jnana badhakam. What Shastra says that you are Brahman, that I am Brahman, this understanding, this fact, understanding means this understanding has no cancellation. That means no contradiction. If what Shruti says, if it were wrong, it could be cancelled by another knowledge. So, as we told, a knowledge, a perception, for example, take you perceive the rope for snake or snake, let us take snake alone. By proper examining, the knowledge of the snake gets dismissed, gets corrected. But here, that I am Brahman is the final knowledge. Beyond this, no knowledge further. That means this knowledge is not subject to change, not subject to improvement, not subject to contradiction. You cannot contradict it, cancel it, improve it, modify it. Nothing can be done because this is a final knowledge. This is what Siddhanti told. Purvapakshi says no. He gives an instance, an illustration. Any knowledge for want of, he says, this knowledge that I am Brahman, this Advaita Jnanam can also be theoretically understood as wrong, as false. This can be understood theoretically as false. See, first thing is he gives a wrong illustration and also says a theoretical possibility of its being wrong. He has not proven it to be wrong. Even in the illustration, it doesn't prove it to be wrong. He says theoretical possibility of being wrong. He gives an example. A person living in a lonely, deserted place, suffering from a congenital disease of his eye, on account of which he starts seeing the second moon. Now he says, since he is alone living in a remote place and he doesn't know that he is suffering from some eye defect, he doesn't know that he is suffering from some eye defect, and such a person, when he perceives the second moon, looks at the moon, he sees the second, and he thinks that the second moon is real and there is no way of contradicting it, no way of negating it. So he thinks the second moon is always a fact. But we know that perceiving a second moon is false, is a wrong knowledge. False in the sense, false knowledge. His understanding is wrong. So, this, just as for want of a doctor to correct him, or for want of another person with whom he could compare and understand that it is wrong, for want of another healthy person having healthy eyes, for want of another person by his side, he doesn't know how to verify and correct his own perception to be wrong. He has been living in that perception and he thinks that it is wrong. He says, similarly, your Advaita Jnanam, that I am Brahman, you are taking it for granted and you are not comparing with others and thinking that alone is right and nobody to contradict your knowledge. There is nobody to contradict your Advaita Jnanam. Therefore, it is a final. You are thinking, see how he is giving an example. In the illustration, the eyes, the second moon was perceived by a defective person of a defective eyes, And there is a theoretical possibility of correcting it, because theoretically it is possible, because sometime another person may come, or he may meet a doctor and somebody may tell that, hey, you are seeing wrongly. Just as there is a possibility of correcting his misunderstanding of second moon, so too Advaita could be misunderstanding. See, this is, first it is a wild imagination. This now what is the reply to is? The reply is, it is wrong, outright wrong. It is meaninglessly, foolishly wrong, because he is only imagining an example. The example itself is very difficultly imagined, very great difficulty. He constructed an imaginary example. Example itself doesn't fit in. Example itself is so impossible example, which is a theoretically imagined and theoretically disproven Advaita to be wrong. He imagines that, so Advaita also could be wrong. This is all a ridiculous thing. But anyway, simple reason to dismiss this Purvapakshi is that Swamiji says, Advaita is a matter of experience. Don't imagine all kinds of your illustrations to try to dismiss Advaita. Advaita is a matter of your experience. In deep sleep, you are right now Advitiya Brahman. So, where is the question of imagination? We are not talking any imagined things. Those people who go by the bookish knowledge, those people who go by the blind sampradayas, blind person-centered sampradaya, Advaita is neither book-centered nor person-centered. Okay? Advaita is neither person-centered. That's why there is no founder for Advaita. They have got their own founders, their own beginners, all those things. Advaita is neither person-centered nor it is a book-centered. If it were person-centered, it would become too narrow-minded, a personal experience of a given person. All religions are same, is a personal experience of a given person. It is an India which is talking of such a beautiful, great Vedanta, openly challenging, questioning, analyzing and everything, got stuck. Whole India is got stuck that one man has experienced all religions are same. And that too is a madcap, religious mad, philosophically madman. And we started believing this blindly, all this that he had a experience. This talk of experience itself is foolishness, I tell you. It is a foolishness. I don't hesitate to say these things, because Anubhava means universal Anubhava, not personal Anubhava. Remember, to prove any fact, you need a universal Anubhava. And what Shankaracharya Vedanta says is Shruti Yukti Anubhava. Okay? Shruti Yukti Anubhava. It should be supported by Shruti, convinced by logical analysis, and also supported by Anubhava. It should be in keeping with Anubhava. Taking these words, these people, these blind followers of this particular sampradaya, trying to say that our Guruji has experienced all the religions to be true, therefore all the religions are true. Have you experienced? When you have not experienced, it is becoming another blind belief, another dogma that somebody has experienced, it should be universal experience. If it is a personal experience, it is as a delusion as a prophetic religions. All religions are same is as bigger dogma, as problematic dogma, as prophetic religions. Because prophetic religions claim the experience of their own prophet and nobody experiences. Similarly here, all religions are same, only one person experienced. It is a personal, fanciful experience. And they say it is proven by Anubhava. When I tried to talk to one brahmachari, he says the same thing. See, there can't be anything greater than Anubhava. All are only theoretical. Our Guruji is Anubhava. He has experienced direct. But his experience also is another imagination, another fancy. What we are talking, what Vedanta is talking, the Anubhava which Vedanta is talking is a universal Anubhava. Universal Anubhava cannot be dismissed. It cannot be a wild imagination because it is everybody's. Everybody means it is a universal experience. So we are talking of universal experience. So here, Advaitam is a matter of universal experience. Sushupti is your Brahm. Sushupti is what is called Brahman by Shastra. Shastra calls it Brahman. Common man's experience, everybody's experience shows that in Sushupti you exist all alone without the world. Neither the world nor yourself being as an individual, nothing exists apart from yourself. There is only one non-dual Brahman. Okay? That is the only existence. Then if other than Sushupti, anything you see, it is born of Sushupti. Born of Sushupti means it is imposed on Sushupti. It is an imagination on Sushupti. It is an imagination within Sushupti. Sushupti is a pure existing. It is a fact. Sushupti is a self-existing fact, universal fact. And any Dvaitam you see is an imagination upon Sushupti. It is a fanciful. It is an imagination. Therefore, Dvaitam is an imagination, but Advaitam is a universal, unnegatable, undeniable fact. Okay? Unnegatable, undeniable fact. Therefore, Shruti is only pointing out Anubhava, it is not creating another Anubhava. And he says your Advaita Jnanam could be wrong Jnanam, could be a misunderstanding. There is a theoretical possibility of correcting it by comparing and contrasting with others, like in the example of, like in this illustration, a person who sees the second moon. The perception of second moon might be corrected possibly. Possibly it might be corrected, but not Advaitam. Advaitam is not a perception at the level of eyes. It is not a perception at the level of mind. Okay? Advaitam is not a sense perception nor mind perception. If it were sense perception, you could say due to some defect in your eyes, the second moon is visible. If it were a perception in the mind, you could say that due to some defect in your mind, you are seeing Advaita. Advaita is not a matter of sense perception nor a matter of mind perception. It is a universal fact. It is a self-existing fact beyond senses and mind. Okay? First you understand. It is beyond senses and mind. Neither there are senses nor there are mind. It is only after falsifying the senses and mind. It is only by falsifying the sense organs and mind you come to discover your truth. So at that level of universal truth, universal experience, there are no sense organs and mind. That means there is no thought of duality, subject-object duality itself doesn't exist. So who is going to further improve your knowledge of Advaita? Tell me. Who is going to improve your who and how and where, in what manner? Tell us. How Advaita knowledge can be contradicted, negated, dismissed, improved, modified? How? How can you do that? Because Advaita is something which is beyond all pramanas and it is a self-existing. Self-existing, self-evident fact cannot be improved by imagination. Self-existence itself means beyond all corrections, beyond all efforts. No effort works there because all your efforts are by your sense organs and mind. When there are no sense organs and mind, it is something beyond sense organs and mind. It is a self-existing fact. Where is a question of improving further? All improvements are false. because all improvements are within Dvaita. It negates the very Dvaita, and there is nothing that negates the Advaita. It is a very strange thing. All forms can be negated in the formless space. Take an example. All the forms can be negated in the formless space. Now, can the formless space be replaced by a form? Can the formless space, formless, colorless space be replaced by a color? Replaced by a form? No form can replace it. Okay? No form, nothing can replace the pure existence. Any perception is within the existence. Taking the existence as a substratum, anything becomes perceived. Anything is perceived in the very existence, but no perception can negate the very existence. Dvaitam cannot negate the consciousness. Dvaitam cannot negate the existence. We are talking of that existence which no Dvaitam can negate. That consciousness which no Dvaitam can negate. Okay? See, even the Dvaitam has to be consciousness. We are talking of consciousness. The consciousness cannot be negated by the Dvaitam. Dvaitam is perceived within the consciousness, and Dvaitam disappears within the consciousness. Consciousness remains stable, stationary. Consciousness remains stationary, in which Dvaitam appears and disappears. In waking state, Dvaitam appears. In deep sleep, Dvaitam disappears. Ceases to be there, disappears in the sense Dvaitam ceases to be there, ceases to exist. But the non-dual, formless, self-existing Atma, which is a pure existence, the pure existence Atma cannot be denied because it is self-existing. What is self-existing is not subject to change, modification. It is a universal fact, nobody can deny it. You cannot negate it because there is no experience that can negate it. You cannot deny it because it is a universal experience. There is no person who could deny it. Okay. No. I got it. I got it already. Nan ತಗೊಂಡು ಬಂದೆ. Okay. So, it is a universal experience. He says, Yuktam tatra jnatrutvasya anuvrittehe. In the illustration which you are giving is perception of moon. There it is a possibility of doubting his second moon, doubting his perception of second moon, because his perception of second moon could possibly be wrong theoretically, because he might find another person who could correct it. Instead of imagining all these things, let us say, simply Swamiji says that perception of the second moon is through your sense organs and mind. So there could be possibly a mistake in your sense organs, in your mind, and that mistake being corrected, you could start seeing one moon alone and avoid the second moon. There is every possibility because eyes, the perception is within the eyes. The perception is through the mind. But here, Advaita Jnanam is not through sense organs, not through mind. Now, where is the possibility of correction? Neither today nor tomorrow, nor either today or tomorrow, or even after 100 years. Do you hope that Advaita can be corrected after 100 years? What does it mean? Because it is beyond time and place. Even after 100 years Sushupti, now you see, in your childhood you had a Sushupti. Again next year you had a Sushupti. Again next year, throughout your life, did you have the nature of Sushupti different? Tell me. Did you have the nature of Sushupti different? Or all Sushupti means, by Sushupti we mean deep sleep, not the dream. Deep sleep. Are deep sleeps different? Did you have different deep sleeps? Is the deep sleep different from one day to another day? Is the deep sleep different from one day to another day? From one person to another person? In fact, the one and another person is negated in the deep sleep. Deep sleep is such an experience where there is no one person and another person, where there is no one day and other day. There is no one day's deep sleep and another day's deep sleep and still yet next week's deep sleep. There is no time of yesterday, today and tomorrow, or 1 week or 1 month or 1 year. All this time is swallowed up by deep sleep. And your deep sleep and another's deep sleep, you and other is an experience within the waking state. You and another person is an experience of waking state. So being in the waking state, when you recall the deep sleep, you are not directly referring to deep sleep, you are imagining the deep sleep. You have a thought about the deep sleep existing in waking state. Living in waking state, you are thinking of deep sleep. Then when you are existing in wake state, you are one individual and looking at another person as an individual. So within this Dvaita experience, you are discussing, imagining, examining the deep sleep. But that is not right, because that is a state of Dvaita. But Sushupti negates the very waking state, swallows the waking state. Waking state means waking Dvaitam. Sushupti is an experience where all Dvaitam is swallowed up. All Dvaitam is negated. And that Sushupti has no negation, no replacement, no changing, no modification anywhere. Even during waking, Sushupti doesn't get replaced. In fact, it is the Sushupti that is appearing as a waking. Okay? Water cannot be replaced by wave. Water cannot be replaced, removed, contradicted, challenged, questioned by the wave. Can wave question, challenge the presence of water? Can ornament question, challenge the presence of gold? Can an ornament question, challenge the presence of gold? He says, I have never experienced gold in my life. Come on, prove it. Where is the gold? Prove it. The wave challenges, come on, prove it. Where is water? Water is a mithya. Wave alone is truth. Who says? Wave argues it. Is a Supreme Court. Wave is arguing. After this, there is no court. Final court. Wave says that, where is water? Prove me. Show me right now, show me. I don't believe it. All this myth and superstition that there is a water and all that nonsense. There is only wave. I declare there is only wave. I prove it here, I'll show you. What is the proof? I am the wave. I am proving you. Wave is arguing. Now tell me. Is a great argument. The fellow, more he talks, more he is proving himself to be fool. Is it right? The more he talks, more he is proving himself to be a fool. Who? The wave. The master wave. The Supreme Court lawyer wave. There are some Supreme Court lawyers like this only. Some, not all. There are some good people also. So this lawyer, who is this lawyer? Supreme Court lawyer, wave, is trying to prove that there is no water. I challenge, come on, show me. Challenge? You fellow, you fool, you don't exist in water. Without water, you don't exist. Even your challenging is a self-disproven. You are challenging, more you challenge, more you get disproved. Because your very existence is water. Without water, you don't exist. Even, see, sometimes you yourself don't exist in water. Water all the time exists. Nobody can deny water. Water is undeniable, but you are deniable. Water is unnegatable, but you are negatable. Water is not replaceable, but you are replaceable. One wave is replaceable by another wave. You don't have to go to water. Another wave is enough for you. You fellow, for your arrogance, one wave is enough. Another wave comes, one stone thrown at water, you will disappear. Wave will disappear. Another wave comes, one wave will disappear. You want to challenge the very water? So here he says the perception of second moon could be contradicted, might be contradicted, because he doesn't have anybody, living in a remote place, and there are no doctor, there is no doctor, there are no other people. Therefore, he is imagining that a second moon is right, eternally right, because right from childhood I have been seeing second moon. Therefore, it is eternal. That fellow thought, but we tell you that fellow is a fool. See, just because he doesn't find another person, he thinks second moon is true. I'll tell you, bring him another person, his second moon disappears as wrong. Second moon gets disproven. Therefore, Advaita also could be disproven. Show me how you can disprove Advaita. Advaita is a universal fact. What do you think? Advaita is sitting in a cave and you see the Advaita? We were studying Vedanta under one guru, Mandukya Upanishad. That Mandukya Upanishad says, the waking state is also like dream. Just as dream itself doesn't exist, so too waking state, the state itself doesn't exist. There is only Advaitam Brahma. So first we studied many other Upanishad Bhashyas, Bhagavad Gita, and then last was Mandukya Upanishad. There was one Swami, we were all brahmacharis, but there was one Swami, senior Swami in age and experience, much senior. And he was a Krishna Bhakta, Vrindavana Bhakta. And he was a Saguna Bhakta so much. He has been warned by his gurus, hey, you are a Krishna Bhakta, Saguna Bhakta, don't listen to Vedanta, your Krishna gets shaken, don't listen to Advaita, don't listen to Vedanta. He himself says, I have been warned by my gurus, yet I have ventured to come to this ashram to learn Vedanta because Advaitins are good Bhaktas, Bhaktas are Advaitins. I found Bhaktas to be Advaitins also, therefore I came. And as he sat there, in a few months Mandukya started. Then the Gaudapada says that a waking is also equal to dream. And Sushupti, there is only Advaitam, everything, nothing is there. And after that talk, he got shocked. Now you know what he tells me? With a great, deeply hurt thing. Oh my God, Gaudapada says there is no world, there is no world. Yo Rama. Gaudapada must be sitting in a cave and talking like that. Otherwise, how can he say like that? How can he say Jagat is not there? And this fellow wants to learn Vedanta. This fellow learns, and he was a senior man to us. We were all young brahmacharis, and he was a very aged senior man to us at that time. And our other brahmacharis would go and make fun of him. Hey, your Krishna is Mithya. Our brahmacharis would go. His room was there in the first room. For in the ashram, everybody to go to his room has to cross his room. His room is in the beginning. Everybody has to cross his room to go to our rooms. Some of the brahmacharis, while crossing his room, just to take a step back and enter into his room, we will tell him, Swamiji, your Krishna is Mithya, Gaudapada told, and they will go away. They will hit and run. That Swami would get hurt. That Swami would get hurt. He's a foolish Swami. What else can you do? Emotional fellow. And see, no thinking, only emotional. And he tells me, I would not make fun of him. I would not tease him, rag him. I rarely would do anybody. Generally, I would never rag and tease. So, rare among the rarest thing I would do. Generally, I wouldn't do. So, and he would tell me, whoever teased him, he would tell me, these young fellows, brahmacharis are teasing me, and he would tell me, see how they are teasing me. The fellow brahmachari who crossed my room, my door, he again comes back and enters my room and tells me, hey, your Krishna is Mithya, Gaudapada told. See how much I felt hurt. I have to console his emotion. I also set aside. I told, what you told is true. Gaudapada must have lived in a remote cave in Himalayas. Somewhere in a remote Himalayas, sitting there, he must have told, oh, everything is Mithya, Jagat is not there. You are correct. Your Krishna is right. Come on, continue your Krishna Japa. Your Krishna Bhajana is okay. Emotional fellow, what can you do? See, in this example, you see, I used to laugh at. Though I told this to console him, as I stepped out of his room, I thought, if you sit in a cave, do you think world is not there? This question for myself. If you sit in a remote Himalayas, cave of a Himalayas, you think it is not a world? Just by living in cave, world gets dismissed? How can the world get dismissed just because you are sitting in a cave in the world? Is not a cave in the world? Cave is in Himalayas. Himalayas is in the world. World is in the waking state. How can you say there is no world? See, you are in the waking. Where will you sit? You sit in the Himalayas. Okay, in the cave. The cave is in Himalayas. Himalaya is in the waking state. Waking state is in the world. Or world is in the waking state, anyway you take it. Then how can you say world is not there? Emotional fellow, anything he says. So, Sushupti is an Anubhava, which swallows even waking, because waking is a state. Waking is a state experienced through mind, okay? Without vritti, no state is experienced. State is experienced through a vritti. Manovritti, it is a state of mind, okay? It is a state of collective mind, not an individual thought. It is a collective mind. But Atma is beyond a state. Simple. Sushupti is not a state. Sushupti is a state if you think of it as a state from the waking state. Sushupti is a state if you think of it as a state from the waking state. Okay. But if Sushupti, as you are in Sushupti, as you are Sushupti, you look at it, it is not a state because it is yourself. You are not a state to yourself. Are you a tentative? State is tentative. Swarupa is not tentative. That's all it means. Swarupa is not a tentative. State is tentative. Simple. State is tentative. Okay, state comes and goes. Tentative means one state comes and goes. Comes and goes doesn't mean state begins in time and ends in time. Waking, whether waking state or dream state, don't begin in time. See, tentative doesn't mean they exist in time. Okay, remember this. When I told waking state or dream state, a state is tentative, I don't mean that waking and dream begin in time and end in time. No, not in that sense. I only mean to say that the states are not real nature, because one state is negated by another state, not in time. Without reference to time, one state negates another state. Okay, one state replaces another state without reference to time, because the time is experienced within the state. Okay, therefore, one state negates another state. Waking negates dream, dream negates waking. They mutually negate each other. They mutually replace each other when waking negates or replaces dream, dream negates replaces the waking. Okay, all right. When do they do? You mean, see here, when do they do? This question arises because you are wrongly comparing, wrongly seeing the negation. The negation has to be seen the way Vedanta teaches. Okay? The negation of waking and dream has to be seen the way Vedanta teaches. How? Does Vedanta see it differently? Yes. Because if you are left to yourself, you see them one after the other. One mistake is, when the waking is, dream is not. When the dream is, waking is not. You are seeing one after the other. Vedanta sees not one after the other. It sees both of them simultaneously, mutually. Both of them are negated, mutually negated. These 2 points you have to remember. Mutually, simultaneity. Simultaneity and mutuality of negation of these two. Who negates whom? Does waking negate dream? We are taking wrongly like this. Leave about Vedanta. How this waking and dream are negating means, how do they understand? When the waking is, dream is not. When the dream is, waking is not. You are taking one by one avasthas. I take waking now. Now there is no dream. Okay. Now I take dream. There is no waking. You are taking one after the other. No, that doesn't work. Because the one after the other implies the time, implies the place and time. So that doesn't work. Time and place are within the states. Therefore, you can't take one after the other. When there is waking, there is no dream. When there is dream, there is no waking. You can't see one after the other. See them as simultaneously. And mutual negation. Who negates whom? Does the waking negate dream, or dream negates the waking? Both get negated by both. Mutual means what? Both get negated by both and simultaneously. That means waking gets negated by dream and dream get negated by waking simultaneously. Simultaneously they replace each other. What does it mean? You understand this? It's a very strange thing. Waking and dream are simultaneously negated and mutually negated. Waking is negating the dream, dream is negating the waking. That means the very thought of two is wrong. The thought of two states ceases to exist. That's what is Sushupti. Both of them simultaneously negated, mutually negating, and simultaneously negating. Mutually and simultaneously, these two. That means what? Both are negating simultaneously, both are negating mutually, means both, the very thought of both is wrong. That's all. You imagine, you think, you do manana, you examine your anubhava, you will come to understand this thing. When you say waking and dream are mutually negating, one after the other? No, one after the other, if you take, it is not mutual. One after other also you generally do, but that's wrong. See, this is important point. This is a prakriya, important prakriya. Mutually they negate, not one after the other. They negate simultaneously, okay? Simultaneously, waking and dream mutually negate. That means the very two states, the idea of two states is wrong. It doesn't exist. There is only one non-dual existence, okay? Therefore, once you negate the Dvaitam and comes to understand Advitiyam, there is nothing to negate Advaitam further, because there is no question of further. Why there is no further? Because there is no previous. Neither previous nor later. The very time gets negated. The very space gets negated. The very subject-object duality gets negated. And there is nothing to be further negated, and there is no negator-negated sambandha. There is no negator and negated. All the negations culminate in one non-dual, which is final. If you understand this, all your Purvapaksha is meaningless. Okay? Therefore, no room for such an apprehension of Advaita could be unreal, Advaita could be wrong. No room for such an apprehension. Okay, such a doubt. Apprehension means doubt. Punah Shastrena Jnatritvasya Yapanodanat, because Shastram is a final pramana. It negates the very pramatrutvam and it negates itself. Shastra negates itself, negates pramatrutvam, negates the Shastra, and all pramanas, all prameyas, all subject-object duality, all pramatru prameya duality gets negated. How? You don't negate it. Negation means by understanding. Negation by understanding, not by physical negation. When you come to understand that you are only one, so this negation is by understanding alone. That means you come to discover there is already non-dual Brahman, that is Sushupti, which is a self-existing Sushupti. Sushupti is not an end result of some process. Non-duality is not an end result of some process. Okay. No process culminates in non-duality. Non-duality is not a culmination. It is a self-existing universal fact. It is not a culmination of end point. Okay. It is not a result of something. It is a self-existing fact. Okay, you come to realize. Therefore, on negation of Dvaita, that saying that on negation of Dvaita, also assuming Dvaita, you talk of it. Assuming Dvaita, you talk of negating Dvaita. See, this is a very strange thing. We have told before also. Assuming Dvaita, you talk of negating Dvaita. But in the Advaita itself is not an end point, is not a reaching as a result of negation. Because it exists even before. Even before you negate, Advaita exists. That is an interesting point. Advaitam is a self-existing fact. It exists all the time, always. Even during your misunderstanding also it exists. There was never a time when there is no Advaita. Advaita is not a point that comes at a later time after the negation of Dvaita. No. It doesn't wait for the negation of Dvaita. For Advaita to exist, it doesn't wait for Dvaitam. Whether you negate it or not, it is immaterial. That means Dvaita being present and negating both don't exist for Atma. Dvaita being present and Dvaita getting negated, both are immaterial. Both don't exist for Atma. Atma is all alone, Advitiyam. Okay? This Advitiya Atma doesn't wait for the negation of Dvaitam and doesn't arrive after the Dvaitam is negated. Otherwise, we think that Dvaitam, Advaitam means imagine two. One is Dvaitam, another is Advaitam. Remove Dvaitam, Advaita comes. If you imagine like that, again you are imagining Dvaitam only. You think Dvaitam is one, Advaitam is one. Dvaitam is negated, then Advaita comes. You put Advaitam is by parallel to Dvaitam. You put Advaitam as a parallel to Dvaitam and remove one Dvaitam, and this is ridiculous. We don't mean that way. That's why we need a right prakriya and right guru to teach you according to Anubhava. Otherwise, you get imaginations. In the imaginations, being in Dvaita, you start imagining Advaita, then this kind of imaginations, false, self-contradictory ideas come in. Okay? Just as Akasha is not a result of breaking a house. There is a house, there is one room. Akasha is a Nirakara. Does a Nirakara Akasha get obstructed by the presence of one room? Do you need to break the room for the Akasha to appear? Do you need to break the wave for the water to appear? Does water not appear even when the wave is? See, does water, listen to the question again. Does water never appear without negating wave? Without negating wave, does water not appear? Doesn't water appear? See? Or even while perceiving the wave, do you miss water? Do you miss Advaita even while perceiving Dvaitam? Even while experiencing Dvaitam, you can never miss it. You can never miss Advaita because it is Advaita that is appearing as Dvaitam. Okay, Dvaitam is an imagination within the substratum, non-dual existence, pure existence, self-existence. Advaita is a self-existing fact. That's why we are able to listen to Vedanta and understand Advaita. We can listen to Vedanta, understand Advaita only because Advaita is a self-existing fact. If Advaita were not self-existing fact, it were to come later after negating Dvaita. If you think that Advaita will come at a later stage after negating Dvaitam, I tell you, you will never get Advaita. There is no Advaita at all. That's why Purvapakshi got stuck. Purvapakshi is unable to understand Advaita because of this defect alone. He thinks that there is Advaita now. See how his standpoint is a defective. See, there is Dvaita now. After negating Dvaita, Advaita will come. It is not present now. Advaita is not present now. It will come sometime later when Dvaita is negated. Now tell me, Dvaita is one and Advaita is yet to come. This itself is Dvaita. Dvaita is now and Advaita will come at some time later. There are two things. And only after negating Dvaitam, Advaitam will come. That means Dvaitam is one and its negation, after negation is another. You are thinking as two states. The thought of two states itself is Dvaitam. That's why Dvaitam is not parallel to Advaitam. Advaitam is self-existing fact. It neither gets negated nor gets contradicted. nobody can deny it. It is there in and through Dvaitam also. Advaitam is there. Throughout it is there, ever existing, undeniably present. Undeniably present. Therefore, that Swatasiddha Advitiya Atma, okay, therefore, no chance of negating. Pramana Prameya Vyavahara, first it removes the very Pramatrutvam. Removes means what? It points out Advitiyam, self-existing Advitiyam, where there is no Pramana Prameya Vyavahara on its own. Not that Pramana Vyavahara existed at one time and now you break them and reach a point where there is no. This again is Advaita. This is not the way. That is not Prakriya. Prakriya is wrong if you say like that. Dvaitam is not an existing fact that you have to remove Dvaitam in order to reach Advaitam. No removal is required because it doesn't exist. Where is the question of removal? You don't have to remove because it never existed. Dvaita never existed. Do you have to remove the dream in order to come to waking? Tell me. Do you have to remove the dream? You have to break the dream. Do you have to break the beam, pulverize the dream in order to come to waking? You don't have to because it never existed. Okay. A dream never existed. Where is the question of breaking it? Then how? Understand only this. Dream never existed. There is only waking all along. Dream is only imagination. That means even this so-called waking is also dream alone. And therefore, you don't break the dream, break the waking to reach Sushupti. Sushupti is an anubhava where waking never existed. Already never existed. Where is the question of removal? You are not removing waking and reaching deep sleep. Waking is only a wild imagination upon the waking, upon the dream, upon the deep sleep, I tell you. Waking and dream are simple imaginations upon the deep sleep. Deep sleep is a self-existing universal fact which nobody can deny. Therefore, in that Advitiya Brahman, there is nothing. Okay. So therefore, even Bhashyakara says, that he is giving a quotation of Bhashyakara, Sati Hanyapsmin Navashishyamane Arte, if after negation Vaita, if something remains Pramana Prameya Vyavahara, then your argument could be okay. But Vedanta eliminates, negates means what? Vedanta negates Dvaitam, not existing Dvaitam. It only points out how Dvaitam never existed. Neither before nor now nor will ever be. So it points out Advitiyam, which is a self-existing Advitiyam, and Dvaitam never existed. Where is the question of removal? And reaching, do you need to remove Dvaita and reach Advaita? These both are wrong. Removal and reaching both are wrong because Advaita alone is all along. Dvaitam never existed. Therefore, negation means coming to understand that Dvaitam never existed. Even this Pramana Prameya Vyavahara is a false. It never existed. What really existed is only Advitiya Brahman. Okay? This point further argued. I think one more, 2, 3. 3 more arguments are there. Yeah. 3 more arguments are there. And that will be answered in the next class. Okay. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om Tat Sat. Yeah.